Alright, so you might be wondering in this file why there is a weird PSD titled Floating Rocks. Well, basically, I thought it would better explain the thought process behind the piece, like the other piece, the ladies' piece, by doing something more simple, like just a bunch of floating rocks or whatever, and a simple background, to basically explain the concepts that are going on. Because no matter what the subject is, it's the same principles being affected on it. It's just the light and form and color and, hard versus soft and all that. So I went ahead and made this, and it only took me like an hour or two to paint up. So I'm going to go back down through the layers and show you how it started in my thought process. So basically the same as with the ladies piece, I started with just a really rough sketch. It didn't have to be indicative of the finished product. Just something in the general shape that I was going to go for, because pretty much you're going to build on top of that and sculpt out as you go forward. So just something that's in the relative placement that you want to be, just kind of representing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a sketch. You'll also notice it's a gradient background, so I already set the mood and the colors that I wanted to use by having the background there already. But you can work on a gray background. It's totally cool. This is just kind of how I worked up the piece for the ladies or whatever. Next is I instantly go on top of the lines and I start blocking out the rock shapes and stuff like that. It's still very rough, really not pretty. Blending down into the white of it, making it a bit grayed out, knocking that back. Because I don't want really too contrasty compared to what the things are going to be in the sky right there. Just bringing down, blending in, just using a brushy brush type thing. I think it's a chalk brush or something. I don't know, just something pretty basic. It doesn't really matter. To start working out and eliminating those lines that you see right there and building out the form. I'm right now thinking about, the light of what's affecting and how it's falling. So it's coming from above, and then there's this little rock beneath the, God, I can't even speak, beneath the big rock. And so the big rock's going to be casting a bit of a shadow. So I was thinking about all that and just capturing it really quickly. And then after I get that basically done, I'm like, okay, that's good enough. And I start building up again, just opening a new layer and be like, okay, so I wasn't liking the purple in the sky too much, so I graded out a bit. Was bringing it down to carve out the shapes of the top rock a bit more, establishing where the cloud line was going to be. And then I was like, okay, so if this is floating on top of clouds, and it's going to need to cast a shadow. So I just took a quick big brush mark and suggested that, and then moved on from there and then opened a new layer. Just building off that again, just taking what I've already established from the previous layer, designing out and sculpting out using the sky and the rock color to sharpen and shape up the rocks and try to get more of a spiky feeling for them. I was also keeping in mind of the direction that they were facing, so I'm gonna open a new layer here. I'm just gonna draw over the top. I'm gonna get a red. I was thinking I want to make this feel like it's like traveling almost, so I gave it everything more of a curve in this direction. So it's more long chips and fractures or whatever along these sides, and then more of a swooped in almost, I don't know if it's really making any sense, but it almost feels like it's going in this direction, so I wanted to have some sort of movement, and then on top of that I was adding that into the clouds in the background. So I was keeping that in mind as I was shaping them out at this point in time. I took the shadow from the previous layer and softened it up where the rocks are casting the shadow from above or whatever. Let's see what else. I'm going to move this up here. Make it disappear. Next layer. I decided to expand the tone in the sky to make it more even at the top. Shape out the shadow a bit more. Refine the rocks. Make sure I'm pushing the shapes of it enough. Because if you don't push them enough, it's just going to look very all uniform, and they're going to look too much the same. So you kind of want to play with things and push and pull and break things a bit, make it expressive. So that's what I was just doing, just trying to keep in mind of like playing around, really pushing it. So I took out chunks of them, expanded them a bit here and there. It's a little bit subtle, but it makes quite a difference, I think. So I just always keep that in mind, just like push it a little bit further than it needs to be. I went on top of it. I was like, okay, so this is not looking bright enough right now. It's all looking very mid-tone. So I was like, okay, next thing. I took a linear dodge layer. I took about the mid-tone peachy tone that I had in the background right there from where the clouds are at. Sampled that, and then I brushed it over on the linear dodge add layer on the parts of the lights hitting so I could get that bloom effect. Like so. And then around the edges, I don't know if you can tell, but it looks kind of smudgy, and that's because I used the smudge tool and just made sure the smudge tool is like set to 50 and just a round brush and just kind of like wheeled it about just to give it, kind of like that hazy look, I don't know if you've seen objects against a dark background when they're brightly lit. It almost looks like a hazy glow about them. So I added that in, and then I also brightened up the base of it a bit more to make the to warm the shadow beneath and to warm up the cloud base and, just keep it very bright and light, contrasting with the background, which is important. Next layer is I went on top with the normal layer and started to pick out things and paint it back because I didn't want to make it too extreme. So as you can see, I kind of softened it, knocked back up those brights and, kind of killed some things here and there. Probably a bit too much hindsight, but, kind of want to be, just a little subtle with the things you're doing. Don't make it look like it's a layer mode, but make it look like you painted it, kind of. So I just brought back that in, added more rock details. No Siri, no. Cell phones. Okay, let's see, carved out some more shapes, softened some edges, the whole deal. Then from that, I copied everything and put it onto a new layer and merged it all down, and I was like, okay, let's see what else I can do. And then I took the smudge tool again and smudged around that one rock right there. I don't know if I like it though, but whatever. I thought it was a good idea at the time, but hey. And then I did the same thing again. I just copied the layer again, and I was like, okay, this is feeling too off-center and feel lopsided because I was flipping the image and it felt very, off. So I just duplicated it again, moved it to the side, and then painted back the sides of whatever that weren't there. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how I work up the lady picture too, is I just think about the lighting direction, just think about the saturation, the lighting, the color, the detail, the shapes of it, and just work off the sketch and just make sure it's generally feeling like that, and then just keep playing with it and moving it around. And it's kind of a messy amorphous thing, but you have to get kind of an idea. Like early on I established the concept of like I wanted them spiky, kind of float in one direction on the cloud base with a dark background or whatever. I mean, there's enough there, but it's just like, just have like a rough idea at the beginning, or else you could be painting things and not really knowing. So they were like the girls I did in that one lady's piece who were like witches and stuff like that, and spooky sorceress and weird armor and yada 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 and weird glowed crystal stuff. So I had that going, so I was like, okay, that concept's there, so as long as I have that to go off of, then I can get the feeling and then just paint it up and it'll be done before anything. So just have an idea before you hop into this, because quickly it can become a spaghetti mess if you don't have something established early on. So make sure your sketch is worked up just enough and you have just enough of an idea, so the sketch doesn't have to be perfect per se, but you should definitely have a bit of an idea there before you go in and paint it and, dedicate a bunch of time. I mean, this one took like an hour, 2 hours or something to do, but yeah, still, the more you have a solid idea, the quicker it's gonna go and whatnot. And just keep in mind about the basics, about composition, lighting, hard versus soft, the overall flow of the image. It's just so much to do, so much. But it's like anything that's basic like this can be applicable to any piece, actually. So, yeah, just think within basics. Keep it simple, and then build the complexity as you go forward. And, yeah, I don't know if I have really much else to add about this stuff, but if you have any questions, you can always email me or comment on anything, ask me a question anywhere, and I'll reply. Like, you can even tweet me on Twitter or whatever. So, if anything's not clear, and if you have any more questions or want me to talk about, something in another piece, then I can do my best to explain it to you, or whatever. If you want help, paint overs, critiques, I'm down. Just let me know. And thanks for the support.